Purpose of this video is to zero in on the theory of multiple intelligences and how this applies to your resource collection. So what I'm asking you to do on that assignment for each of the instructional activities that you plan for your 25 books, after you write the description of what you'll be having the students do, I want you to label the area of multiple intelligences that your activity meets. Now, lots of activities could fall under different areas of multiple intelligences, which I'm going to explain here in just a minute. Pick the best one. There's no right or wrong here. There's some areas that are a closer match than others, but don't worry too much if you think you might not have the right one. Just make sure it's in the right ballpark. So let's talk a little bit about multiple intelligences. In our Blackboard course, in the course contents link, you can see a video link to an interview with Howard Gardner. He's the man who created the model of multiple intelligences. Hopefully you've heard of this, maybe in developmental psychology class. It's the idea that, of course, there are lots of ways to be smart. There are lots of ways to learn things. And in school, we tend to focus on a very narrow way of learning that really deals with language and sitting and listening. And for some children, that's not their best way of learning, and maybe you can relate to that idea. So what I'd like you to be thinking about as you're planning your activities for your resource collection is that you're including activities that come from the different areas, and let's talk a little bit about those. First is the visual area, and this is when a person learns through seeing. Books that help promote visual learning would be a visual dictionary where different objects are defined not just with words but also with pictures. The second area is verbal intelligence. These people find it very easy to learn through listening, speaking, reading, writing. Now, that's not necessarily the case for everyone, and if you're a person who maybe is a reluctant reader or you feel like your writing skills aren't very strong, this may not be your best mode of learning. Unfortunately, it's the one that's often emphasized in the classroom as well as visual also. So we want to keep this in mind so that we're meeting the different learning needs of students. The logical intelligence really focuses on learning through problem solving. And I always think of my daughter when I think of this area because she's really good at math. And I'm okay at math, but she didn't get her math ability from me. She loves calculus. She took calculus up through calculus 3 and she loved it. And she and my son will get together and they'll talk calculus and higher level math, and it'll be like a foreign language to me. So, but there are people who prefer that way of learning, and that's definitely my daughter. Not the best speller in the world, but definitely skilled at logical intelligence. Kinesthetic intelligence really matches to people who need to be up and moving when they're learning. And when you're in a classroom, you'll definitely be able to pick out these students because they have a hard time sitting down in that chair. So you may ask them to sit down, but they're up on one knee, they're leaning on their desk, they're tilting their chair back. They like that movement. They really shine when they're in physical education class. They feel very comfortable when they can move around when they're learning. So it's good to include activities in your teaching that get kids up and moving to help meet this area of intelligence. Rhythmic is the next area. And for people who are musically talented, this definitely would be an area that inspires their learning. I have to say this is not my strongest area. My family is very musically inclined. My husband plays the bass, my son plays percussions, my daughter sings and plays the flute. I have a stepson who plays the electric guitar and keyboard. So I always say, well, my family could have a band and I would have to be the roadie, or I'd be the one that stands on the side playing the tambourine because I can't really do anything else when it comes to musical intelligence. Intrapersonal is where you learn by relating things to yourself. And so when we're talking about activities in the classroom, let's say you read a book to students and then you ask them to write a journal entry writing about how the book connects to their own experiences. That would be intrapersonal, connecting a book to their own experiences, as opposed to interpersonal, which is people interacting with each other. And so there are people who absolutely love cooperative activities in the classroom. They love being on a team and working together, and we want to honor that area of learning that's um, their strength by promoting activities in the classroom. Let students work together. Naturalists are people who learn through nature. Some of you probably read Hatchet or other Gary Paulson books, and that's a great example of naturalist. These people like to be outside, be touching things, experimenting, very scientific in this area of intelligence. So think about this as you're thinking about activities to do with your books. How can you get students outside, moving around, using their hands? And then the last area is existentialist. And this one is a little bit harder to kind of put a thumb on. It's learning through seeing the big picture. And these are the kind of people who are the big idea kind of people, maybe not so good with the details. And so they see lots of connections. What we learn in science connects to math, connects to language arts, connects to reading. And so activities that bring together content areas are really helpful for students in this area of intelligence. So the idea is, if you listen to Howard Gardner speak on the video, it isn't that you have to teach everything in all of these ways, but throughout the course of, say, a week, you try to incorporate activities that touch on all these areas of multiple intelligence.